colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Cape Institute for Architecture, we're co-hosts of this conference. I welcome you. On behalf of SIA, I hope all of you realize that AZA is actually the conference and events brand of the South African Institute of Architects. I welcome you. And first I'd like to thank Daniel van der Merwe, who's also the president of GIFA, the Gauteng Institute, for organizing this conference. A lot of energy, he puts a lot of energy into these events, and they really would not happen without his particular input, I must say. So thank you, Daniel. Well, welcome to today's session, entitled Today for Tomorrow. We've got great speakers lined up, so I'm not going to keep you long. And anyway, personally, having volunteered or been volunteered for so many committees lately, I'm tired of my own voice, so I'll keep it short. But as I interact with so many people outside of my own practice, and I hope most of you get that opportunity, it is a privilege, it has afforded me the opportunity to, it's actually compelled me to rethink or to think beyond the day-to-day issues that are making a living. So in a few minutes, I'd like to pick, if I had to pick three key issues to consider under this theme, Today for Tomorrow, these would be them. The first is sustainability. You've heard that word a lot. I'd like to be more practical about this issue. First, I think we need to clean up our act, literally. The problem with most of us is that when faced with choices about sustainable solutions, the issue of cost most often curtails our effectiveness, let's face it. We've confronted with this all the time. So what real choices do we have acting alone? Well, apart from the obvious of siting a building appropriately, which has been mentioned, and with the correct orientation, of course that's important. You can take advantage of the landscaping and so on. But in my opinion, legislation is probably the best way of raising the bar and leveling the playing field. Two cliches in one sentence. But we need to be involved in formulating this legislation. That's key. The second is using our collective voice and advocating for change by seeking our best practice and best products and systems and spreading the word. I recently attended the Green Building Council of South Africa's convention. I don't know how many of you were there. I was inspired by the speakers, not so much by the architectural speakers, by the other speakers. There was a guy who's making a living out of flies and mosquitoes and feces. It was amazing. I suggest you look that up. But the best that can be said for the Green Building Council and its rating tools, because that is the primary vehicle for its advocacy, is that they're raising awareness of green issues. And I sit on the Green Building Council's board, so I know how dedicated and committed those people are to this process. But the actual impact of green buildings in South Africa is still negligible. I think there are about 50 with another 100 coming on stream in the next year. But 150 building out of the thousands, tens of thousands of buildings in South Africa means that it is a homeopathic contribution to the the sustainability issue. In my office experience, similarly, the Part XA regulations have not significantly altered the way buildings are designed yet. It might be because we're already incorporating sensible design solutions. I hope it is. But I suspect that the XA regulations, I don't know if you know, was rushed out in time for COP17. And so was a real cobbled together with certain interest groups downplaying certain issues and certain products being put to the fore and so on. But we were involved, but peripherally. We as architects were involved on the committee that drafted the legislation, but not with enough force. XA does not go far enough, and the evaluation tools are either too simple and too complex. In the UK, as you know, in Europe, if you take that as a model, they kept on ratcheting up their energy and water performance requirements, and in fact that is probably the easiest way of raising this issue. So we need to advocate for a steady increase in energy and water performance requirements in the building regulations and in the right areas. So when XA is redrafted, which it is going to be, we need to be there. And for that, we need experts to step up and help. The second issue I think, is the built environment. Because I don't think it's too controversial, or maybe it is, to say that few modern precincts or neighborhoods or even streets compare in quality to the streetscapes of the last century or the older streetscapes. It seems like too many architects, or maybe it's the clients, believe their buildings should be iconic. And in fact, yesterday I had a client literally phone me and asked me to see if I knew of any sites available for a client of his who wanted an iconic building. I don't know how many times I hear that word from our clients and even from the architects. Not every building has to be iconic. In fact, what happened to good manners? Understanding the scale and rhythm of the good surrounding buildings, and using a similar palette and thereby contributing to a better urban environment, a better street, a better neighborhood. Giving back to the street and the neighborhood. To this end, it's encouraging that our institute is part of the Urban Design Policy Initiative of the City of Cape Town. We just hope that the policy goes far enough. It is specific about outcomes and has a workable system of incentives to see these outcomes realized in the absence of large amounts of public money. We need to be vigilant and see that it does. We need to be involved in that process. We need to advocate strongly. The third issue, which has also been mentioned yesterday, is inequality. Because we all know that there are two Cape Towns, if you take this city as an example. The Cape Town of beaches, winelands, luxury houses, and living about 20 minutes from most of the things that affect your life. But there's also the Cape Town, as you know, of informal settlements and poverty, long travel times and taxi violence. And most of us live in the first Cape Town and only intersect with the second via our maids and gardeners, very tangentially. And yesterday I heard architects saying, how can we get involved? Is it okay for us to sit back and bemoan the fact that we're not invited to participate in the provision of housing or the alleviation of poverty? With some exceptions, unless you've chosen the field, and there are notable exceptions, people chosen that field, most of us go about our business believing we're simply out of the loop. And that is true. Government does not give much, if any, credence to the ability of architects to contributing to the housing solutions, and that is a problem. But by advocating that new housing be situated in sensible area places, as we heard Urki say, connected to good transport, and that placemaking and the urban environment is as important as the provision of a roof over someone's head, especially in the long term. These are important issues, and we can, by the power of our collective voice and our design-orientated problem-solving abilities, advocate for our inclusion in the process. And who knows, one day we can reclaim our place as leaders of that process. So listening to the speakers yesterday, I was struck by how they seemed to battle bravely on, almost by themselves, pursuing a personal vision or a set of beliefs, and how this image of the lone warrior is what we have to take back and inspire us in our solitary practices. The panel discussion yesterday discussed the political nature of architecture, but in the main one sees architects acting alone, and certainly those that presented conferences succeeding against the odds. While we no doubt can do our part in our own practices, it's my firm belief that acting together gives us the best chance of making a difference. Working together, we should be able to firstly share the load, and secondly create the conditions for all of us to do better. Better for our environment generally, better for our neighborhoods, and better for the people that need as much help as they can get. And here's the sales pitch. Your regional institute and your national institute are best placed to lead that charge. But to do that effectively, we need funds and we need skilled volunteers. In other words, we need you guys. As some people asked yesterday, how can we affect change? My answer is only by acting together. So get involved. If you need my email address or my cell phone number, let me know. Thank you.